You guys may have heard about this big Comcast-Time Warner merger. They have joined evil forces. Basically Comcast bought Time Warner for $45 billion. That's billion with a B. And Comcast is known as one of the biggest spenders in all of politics. They have over 100 lobbyists in D.C. And I love this. So there was a big congressional committee on the merger. And you're not going to believe this, but Comcast has donated money to all 18 members of that said committee. Let's look at some of the donations. Senator Durbin from Illinois, $54,000 from Comcast, which is the most of any senator on the committee. Orrin Hatch got $45,000. Leahy up in Vermont, $52,000. Mike Lee, $17,000. Al Franken, $5,000. Al Franken also is the only one to oppose the merger. And interestingly, he got the least amount of money. Can you believe that? I find that hard to believe. We've got video of Al Franken talking about the merger. Let's go to that.
I think Comcast does give money to people who support them, not necessarily to buy their support, but I really don't like the role of money in politics. And I think it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. I think Citizens United was a very disturbing, pernicious ruling. I think this latest McCutcheon ruling was awful. It's just giving more power to those who have money.
You like that?
So funny.
You like that?
Pernicious.
It's a funny word.
It's a funny word. Wow.
So just to clarify, in case you weren't listening to Mr. Franken, the guy who's getting the least amount of money is the only one fighting it. But he does want you to know that it's not about the money. Is that the sad part here, before we get to the merger, that the one guy who's fighting it is getting the least, but yet even he even goes on television to say it's not that they've been bought off, even though we know that they have.
I think he's right, and I think we look at it too. His point is bigger. The money in politics is the problem. There are going to be people who oppose this merger at, like, I'm going to make stuff up here, Viacom, say, and they give a ton of money too.
Right.
So at some point on issues like this, you're getting money from both sides. So you're probably free to vote your conscience. The problem is that whether Viacom opposes it or Comcast fights for it, nobody in there is fighting for consumers.
Yeah.
Right.
So whether this merger happens or not, it's not like, if this merger is denied, it's not a great victory for the American consumer. Like, we're sort of screwed either way.
Right, but it's a little victory, right? Because then hopefully there's some more competition and prices.
But I mean, we've lost. There is basically. So our big debate is whether there are 4 giant multimedia companies running everything, or 5 or 3.
Yeah.
Like, it's a problem either way.
And let's be honest, unless you're me, $5,000 is not a lot of money.
Right.
So I think that should just be taken off the table to begin with. Who gives a shit?
Right.
It was $5,000.
So we should give Al Franken extra credit then, because the $5,000
I don't
is
think
nothing
that has
anyway.
anything to do with it.
Yeah.
I mean, why would it? It's $5,000.
Is the $50,000 a lot? Because so Dick Durbin, who got the most,
Yeah.
$50,000 in the course of a campaign and all that is actually nothing too. So is
Right.
that enough to buy a
of
guy?
course
Or I
it's
guess that goes
better
to your
than
point.
$5,000.
I mean, I presume, like, I don't know who else is fighting this, but I guess the way that some airlines fight mergers of other airlines, because it'll create too much competition for them, I was probably right that if Viacom even
Is that a thing?
That's a thing.
Is that a
Yeah,
thing?
But I imagine, like, they own CBS, so I imagine that they don't want this, and I imagine that the other AT&T, Uverse, or Verizon, Fios, they might not want this.
But everyone's too afraid to say anything. Like, all of these huge companies that are gigantic corporations are totally unwilling to fight this.
Right.
So why is that? They're huge companies too.
Yeah, I read that. I'm curious whether the big companies are unwilling to fight it, or certainly the
mom and pop.
The mom and pop billion-dollar companies.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
right, I mean, because this is a marriage of what, the 1 and 2 biggest cable providers and the 1 and 3 biggest
Internet,
broadband providers. But then the content providers are the people who could also be screwed by this, as they could price fix for how much they pay for each network's programs. But they don't want to fight it because they don't want to be in a disadvantageous position. I suspect that in some sense the only people capable of fighting this are other media giants. Like, I mean, where's Fox when you need them to step in and fight this? Like, I can't believe I wish Rupert Murdoch would jump in and fight for me like always.
Right,
He's a great
maybe,
activist.
or maybe Google could do something about
Maybe
this, right?
Google,
Google
right.
Fiber is
Right.
coming.
Amazon, somebody. It matters. But it sounds like when Al Franken is the lone voice, it sounds like when you have support from Orrin Hatch and Dick Durbin, it's a reminder that sometimes on big issues like this, the parties don't matter.
Yeah. What's going on in Minnesota? Minnesota gave us the one independent governor we've had, Jesse Ventura, and they've given us Al Franken, who's basically an independent for all intents and purposes. What's going on up there that you can get a place that gives us Michelle Bachmann also gives us these independents?
2 words. Cheese curds. I'm telling you, they make people act in ridiculous ways.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to go with ice fishing.
Pickled herring.
by the
Ben,
way,
you're watching Fargo. What the hell's going on
I
up
saw
there?
Fargo last night.
How was
It
it?
was very good.
Good.
It was a lot of fun. Really well done. I mean, well, Michelle Bachmann in a very specific district. Franken, by the way, he shows some independence, but he's a Democrat. He's a. And Jesse Ventura, remember, had some interesting, fun things, but he lives in Mexico. Off the grid.
He's off the grid. He even has a new show. I'm doing it next week. It's called Off the Grid.
Yeah.
But and what about are we just done with the antitrust situation? That's not a thing anymore? Nobody cares.
Well, it reminds me of money in politics. We talk about it here all the time,
Yeah.
but politicians used to talk about money in politics.
right.
There was something called the McCain-Feingold bill. Gone.
Right.
nobody talks about it, so I think it's pretty much.
We don't care anymore.
No,
That's over.
William Howard Taft is attempting to roll over in his grave, but he can't. Yeah.
Because there's so many Time Warner cables going through
He's
the
fat. It was
He's
a fat joke. It was a
gigantic,
fat
man.
joke.
That was a
Yeah,
fat-
It was
really
a dead.
funny.
It was a dead fat joke.
Wow, I took
Decomposed
a
fat joke.
I took a sound fat joke and I turned it into a cable
Yep,
joke.
you
That's
sure
pathetic.
did.
Well, Ben, it might have something to do with former FCC chairman who is now Comcast senior vice president. Maybe that has something to do with why things can't happen. Maybe it's because Comcast CEO Brian Roberts played golf with Obama. I don't know if any of these things are connected. So final thought on this. Is this just going to make it so that we're just going to consistently see worse and worse service? I mean, that's ultimately what the concern is, that our internet is just going to keep getting slower, or it's going to be throttled so that they'll throttle Netflix if they're not in partnership with Netflix, as you were saying.
Well, yeah. I mean, everybody wants the same thing. Everybody wants the most they can get for the littlest they have to put into it, and
Yeah.
that's what the cable companies want. They want to get the most from us by having to do the least. So, and they have way more money and power and stuff than we have. So, yeah, of course.
I already see it. I'm a Verizon Fios customer, and for some time with Fios and with one other, Netflix was slowed down. It was. So, I watched House of Cards season 2, and I watched it. The things you have to put up with in this country.
It took you 49 minutes instead of 46.
Oh, no, it took me 46 minutes, but it wasn't a perfect HD quality picture.
You weren't getting 1080.
Yeah, right.
You were on 720?
No, I was at 720 at most, and sometimes it would be like a little blurry.
Wow.
Yeah, Jesus, it's like,
Sorry for your loss.
this is, granted, like my daughter's not hungry.
Right.
But it's like the same thing.
Yeah.
Does she have 10 fingers, 10 toes?
She has 10 fingers, 10 little fingers, and 10 little toes.
Great.
She does,
Yeah, good.
Please send all your condolences to @BenMank77 on the Twitter.
But that's a
machine.
big deal, real quick.
Yeah.
I know we got to go, but that's
Yeah.
a big deal. Not my Netflix problem, but as you mentioned, when they're just going to start, there's going to be most favored nation status, and I just don't see any way that anyone's standing up to make that stop.
Yeah,
except for people like Elizabeth Warren.
Right. So, by the way, if you're a Young Turks fan in general, we are on YouTube here. So we are the type of company that could be affected by this because the big boys could get in bed with other online media things and be like, oh, the Young Turks, they're actually telling the truth. We're going to slow down their videos. So that's why this stuff is all important.